There are only two things you need to master to play off a single-digit handicap. And today we're going to go over them at one of my favorite courses, the PGA West Pete Dye Mountain course in La Quinta. And I know there's a lot of math on the screen, and I do have a separate video coming up going through the handicap system. But for today's purposes, all that's important to know is that nobody would describe this as an easy golf course. The first key to playing off a single digit is keeping it in play off the tee. And here on the first hole, my drive is only 240, but it's right down the middle, which sets up an easy approach and an easy two-putt par. To avoid a big score, I play well away from the water here on the 200-yard par 3. I don't mind if it misses the green, and in this case it misses in a place where I can still use the flat stick, and on a 200-yard par 3 we're more than happy to walk away with a par. A lot of amateur golfers don't keep it in play off the tee, but I still maintain that they lose the majority of their strokes where I'm about to lose one here, which is inside 100 yards. I blade a chip after missing the green here, and that leaves me hoping to get up and down from the fringe here. And in my case, I walk away from this hole with just a bogey. If you are able to keep it in play off the tee, you'll find yourself doing the majority of your scoring on par 5s. Most of them play around 500 yards, meaning that if you keep it in play off the tee, you'll effectively be left with a par 4 that plays 250 or less. I'm not a long hitter, but even in my case I will do some scoring from that range. And I might not be a scratch golfer, but every now and then I'll make a putt. I'm not a scratch golfer, and I'm also not a professional chef. In fact, until pretty recently, it was harder for me to get a home-cooked meal on the table for myself every day than it was making birdies at the golf course. So I resolved to up my cooking game in 2022. I started using HelloFresh, and I immediately became more confident in the kitchen, and I'm now cooking more than I ever have before. I particularly enjoy their 20-minute meals. They're low prep and easy cleanup, so I don't waste time meal prepping or shopping for groceries at the grocery store, and I get to spend more time at the golf course. I've also made a habit of ordering extra portions that I eat for leftovers the next day. HelloFresh also offers great value. With its pre-portioned items, I'd never waste money throwing away excess food. So go to HelloFresh.com and use the code NOTASCRATCH16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. Don't take swing advice from me, but do listen to this. Go to HelloFresh.com and use the code NOTASCRATCH16 for up to 16 free meals and 3 surprise gifts. The second key to playing off a single digit is being tidy inside 100 yards. And on this hole, even though my approach comes up short, it's actually this shot where I'll lose the majority of the strokes. It's a bad out of the bunker, and I'm not going to get up and down from this tricky lie too often. And just like that, a disaster inside 100 cost me a double bogey. I couldn't have placed this drive much better on the 6th hole. And because in my case I'm decent off the tee and tidy inside 100 yards, I wind up losing the majority of my strokes here on the approach shots. And from only 140 I miss quite a bit short. But because I'm tidy from the rest of the way in, it leads to only a bogey, which is just fine on stroke hole 3. Let's take a brief detour to talk about attitude and expectations. My expectation was originally to reach this green in 2, owing to the elevated tee box. But I hit a wayward drive left, and then tried to play smart golf laying up to 100 yards. But guess what? The golf gods bit, and even my smart shot found the water. But nonetheless, I kept my cool here. I managed to drop one and put it on the green, and get out with just a bogey. Let's compare that to this hole. My drive finds the waist area, but it's actually a decent lie here. But after that chirping from Mike, I have to confess that I was losing it just a bit. I put this one on the green, but I didn't go through my routine here, and it leads to a horrible putt. And just like that, being bad inside 100 yards leads to a double bogey. If you watch my channel, you know that I'm rarely one to lose my cool during a round. But the last hole was frustrating, and I'm playing a team game and letting my partner down. And that's probably one of about 3 or 4 times this year that I'll go for the club throw. I follow up a bad approach with a bad wedge, before refocusing and reading this putt for about 20 seconds. And it pays off. That completes the detour about psychology. Like I said, the real key to playing off a single digit is being tidy inside 100 yards and keeping it in play off the tee. And I challenge you on your next round to keep exactly these stats, and I guarantee it will be more insightful than any swing advice you'll see on YouTube this month. We'll continue looking at drives and play from inside 100 yards on the back, and we'll also take plenty of time to absorb the beauty of the back nine at the PGA West Pete Dye Mountain course. It's one of my favorite back nines in golf.
That's a fast putt. That is a tough putt.
And on the 10th hole here, I will lose one from inside 100 yards. I confess that this is a bit of an angry swing on 11, but nonetheless I'm trying to leave the last hole behind me, knowing that there's a lot of golf ahead. I grab a 180 club from this number, and I'm not quite sure why. It goes over the back, and wouldn't you know it, we hit another bad shot from inside 100. But sometimes we negate those when we do things like this.
Sorry, I yelled in your camera. All good.
In play off the tee and tidy inside 100 yards is another way to describe boring golf, and the 12th hole encapsulates that pretty perfectly. It's not a long drive, but it's down the middle. It's a short iron onto the green, and even though this is a bit of a tricky putt, we're tidy inside 100, and 2 putt for par. Juxtapose that against this. Like the par 3 on the front, we're probably losing half a stroke by missing the green. But it's the disaster wedge shot that really costs us. And the second one isn't quite in tap-in range. And wouldn't you know it, 2 bad strokes inside 100 yards lead to a double bogey. I'll quit belaboring the point for 1 second, just to stop and appreciate my favorite 2-shotter on this golf course. It's right up against the mountains, and this green complex couldn't be much more beautiful. On this hole, we hit a drive into the fairway, an approach just over the back, and we'll technically get up and down for par.
Oh boy, you smoked that one, Adam.
That one was right solid.
The next 3 holes make for my favorite stretch in the desert. And back to the subject of par 5s. Sometimes hitting bad shots on them still allows you to make a par. My approach here misses the green, but I finally hit a good chip for probably the first time today, and up and down from inside 100 allows us to make a par. This tee box actually wasn't in play, but we decided to hit one from here just for fun. And separately, we're getting close to 25,000 subscribers on the channel. It's wild for me to think about that, and all I have to say is thanks for hanging around. We make another mistake from inside 100 on 16. And it's going to lead us to being double digits over par through 16. That's not the end of the world given the difficulty of this course, but we follow it up by hitting our only real wayward drive of the day. We're 200 out from a waste area and we top one here, but realistically I probably wasn't plopping one on the green anyway. The driver there cost us a stroke, and after hitting a good putt from the fringe here, we'll get out of this one with a bogey. I'm licking my chops on the final par 5 of the day, but this drive is also a little bit wayward, so we won't be going for this one in 2. I know if I put a decent strike on a 4-wood here, I will be inside 100 for the approach. I end up at about 80, which is a good number for me after playing so much pitch and putt, and I'll have about 10 feet here to close the day with a bird, but it doesn't quite drop. We'll conclude the day 11 over, which is a differential of 8.5, meaning that if I played like this every day, I'd be an 8 handicap. And of the 83 strokes today, 47 were from inside 100 yards. I said it after the front 9, but I really encourage all of you to track these numbers as well. And if you can match the ones above, you'll find yourself playing off a single digit too.